Hello and welcome back to our cottage garden. We're into February now and I thought we could show you around a bit today since things are starting to wake up. We've had a nice warm couple of weeks and things are really starting to move, and it will be no time at all until we're into that kind of continuous momentum state as we get into spring. So things are still nice and slow here, but there are signs of life everywhere. We've got snowdrops popping up, crocuses, irises. So I'm going to show you around and we can just enjoy those and also have a look at what's to come over the next few weeks. But I thought we could start down here because if you watched our autumn bulb planting video, you might remember I added some crocuses to this bed behind me. Those are all appearing now. And please correct me if I say this wrong, because the names are a bit complicated. I think these ones are called Chrysanthus Ardschenk is the name, but I've only seen it written down and not pronounced, so feel free to correct me if that's wrong. But they're a small white crocus. And the nice thing about crocuses is I grow these kind of smaller varieties that flower earlier in the year, so those are out now in middle of February, and then I also grow the larger Dutch varieties that come out end of February, early March. So we've got a really nice kind of continuous display of crocuses and still lots to look forward to. And they're just starting to appear, but it's a really nice thing to see. And let's move up to the next bed and I'll show you our snowdrops. So this bed next to me, I'm working on turning it into a late winter, early spring interest kind of bed. And to do this, I've been adding lots of snowdrops and hellebores. There's a few different types of snowdrops and they're all starting to appear now. But I've been doing this in a few different ways since last year. So some of them I planted in the green, which means adding them at the end of snowdrop season after they've flowered. And people say this is the most reliable way of doing it. And from what I've seen so far, that seems to be true. There's a couple that I also planted as bulbs in autumn, so not last autumn but the one before, so it's quite a slow process. I think they will sort of double each year and I'll be able to spread them out, so give it a few years and this will look more of a mass of snowdrops, but it's definitely nice to see a bit of this bed flowering already. So we've got just the common snowdrop. This is Galanthus nivalis, that's the one we've got most of here. Some of these I got from pots in the garden centre and planted in the green, and then others I found growing in the grass, so I just moved them down here and spread them out. I also have a few, not too many, double flowering versions of those. So that's Galanthus nivalis flora pleno, and they're really pretty. They're quite hard to spot from a distance, but if you turn the flower heads upright, you can see the double kind of petals in the middle. It looks really, really lovely. And then we've got this snowdrop here with the green leaf. That's called Warranawi. Again, not sure how you pronounce that because I've never heard it pronounced, only seen it written down. I didn't actually know that I planted this variety. I think it was an accident. I thought they were just more of the common snowdrop. And I don't know if I like them because they have these really, really big leaves that are quite imposing. And I think after the flower heads sort of die back, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about those. I think they'll look really good naturalised in the lawn, so if I get around to it, I may move those ones into the lawn. But I wanted to stop here and show you how things are coming along. We've also got 5 hellebores in here now. 3 of them are really big and 2 of them are just starting to appear. But hellebores are absolutely amazing and I just love them. I don't know exactly what type these are, so if anyone does know, please feel free to let us know. But they look super lovely and they're adding a bit of pink colour to what is otherwise quite a bare bed at this time of year. But now we can move up the garden and I'll show you some other bulbs that are flowering at the moment. This is another detail that you have to look very closely for, and it might not be obvious on first glance, but here are some of the crocuses that I've added to the lawn down here. These ones are called Firefly, and again they're an earlier flowering variety. Quite small, a lovely kind of lilac colour. I really, really like the colour of these, but it's quite hard to show you them at the moment because in the morning they are closed up, so I'll come back out here later and film them when, hopefully if we get a bit of sun, they open up and have a really, really beautiful flower and they're a bit more visible. I don't tend to naturalise an awful lot of stuff in this bit of the lawn just because this is where our dogs use the garden more often, and you can see the grass has been struggling a bit with all of the rain that we've had this winter, which has been a lot, and we've lost a bit of grass and it's going to need a bit of help, I think, to perhaps reseed the lawn, so that's something I'm going to be working on soon. I've also been doing a few jobs here and there in the last few weeks, and one of them includes looking after this rose. So I took the rose out of the pot, discarded all of the old compost and then replaced it with new compost just so it's got some new nutrients in there. I put all of the bulbs back in. I don't know if they'll flower, but these are just tulip bulbs. They've been in there for about 3.5 years, so who knows if they'll flower, but so far they have been flowering every year. We've also got some more snowdrops around this part of the garden, again, that I've put in the beds. These are the Waranawi type. Again, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, so please do let me know if you know. But I have just started adding them into the beds in the hope that over the years they'll build up and we'll have more of a display of snowdrops. But if you do grow snowdrops or you have introduced them to your garden, please do let me know how long it took you to get them to look really big and impressive and showy, how many years that took. And how you've been looking after them, because that will provide me a bit of motivation to keep dividing them and planting more of them as the years go on. But now let's move up further into the garden. So these are the first of our irises flowering, and these are called Catherine Hodgkin, and they're this really pretty blue and yellow kind of colour. They are actually starting to go over now, so we've timed it quite well just to catch them before they finish. These I planted a couple of years ago, so they are an early flower in the garden. I did add quite a few irises last autumn, but they haven't flowered yet. And I find things tend to take a little bit longer on their first year of flowering in the garden, and then after that they get into a better rhythm. So these have been here a long time, and you can kind of tell because they're quite clumped. So I think once they finish flowering, I might lift these up and divide them a bit and just give them a bit more space. But they're really lovely. I love coming out and looking at the detail on these. It looks like they've been painted by hand. They're so pretty. So that's the first of our irises, but we do have a lot more to come. And I can see there's one that's almost started flowering in the new iris bed that I put in, but it's not quite ready yet. So again, I think a week or two and those will look amazing, and we've got more to look forward to there. So this is an interesting comparison of snowdrop growing when you plant the bulbs in autumn. So the bulbs that you can see in front of me are from bulbs that I put in not last autumn, but the one before. In their first spring, they didn't flower, and then in the second one they have. But there aren't too many of them, and I think I planted about 700 bulbs here. It was a lot. So people do say it's quite hard to get them to flower. Some of them will just sort of disappear, and I definitely think that's true for my experience so far, but I'm still glad they're flowering, and hopefully it will be onwards and upwards from here, and each year they'll get a bit better. So these snowdrops are the variety called Waranowi that has this kind of green leaf, and I really like the way that it naturalises in the grass, because hopefully as the bulbs go over, the green won't be as obvious and it will kind of blend into the lawn. And then I've got things like primroses and daffodils and snake's head fritillaries that will come up in this area. I can still see a lot of leaves that haven't flowered though, so there might be more to come here. So we'll see how we go, but again, this is the start of something that I want to work on over the years, and I think these kinds of things, they just take a bit of patience. So you kind of have to be happy with the reward that you've got, and they do look really lovely, and I'm just excited for this to look more and more impressive as the years go on. But around me here, our hellebores are still looking good. We've got obviously these 3 new ones that have been flowering since I bought them a few weeks ago. We haven't got any flowers yet from the plants that I added about 6 months ago. They probably will flower though, they're sending leaves up, so I think again it might just be a matter of a couple of weeks time and we'll start to see those, so we'll just have to see how we get on. But I am seeing a lot of other things pop up here. So we've got tulips in the tulip bed, you can see the top of those appearing, tulips in this bed next to me, so that's really exciting. So in the veg garden, the crocuses that we've got popping up in the grass are Cream Beauty, and that's this really lovely tiny yellow flower. It looks a little bit like a buttercup actually, very bright yellow and just very sweet and tiny and dainty. And then we also on the other side have some more of Joan of Arc crocuses that are just starting to appear as well. I think over time I'd like to mix them up a bit so there's not just clumps of one flower, and have it look more kind of fluid and different colours going on. So I think that's something I might work on in the autumn. And then we've also got lots of daffodils starting to push up through the soil, and we haven't had any flowers appearing yet, but they seem like they're a lot bigger every time I come out here. So again, it's just that sign of momentum building up and lots to come. The same story in the orchard. The ground is really visibly covered in daffodils that are appearing through the soil, so I'm really looking forward to seeing those flower. I still have a few jobs to do, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get time. I even have a couple more bags of bulbs that I've just forgotten to plant. I really don't know if I'm going to get time to put those in. Our garlic is showing a lot of signs of life as well. So the only variety I'm growing this year is elephant garlic, and I have one bed of it in the vegetable garden and another set in the polytunnel. It's something I've grown before and really loved, so I wanted to grow more of it every year, and it's just started appearing in the polytunnel. And the same story with my broad beans. I thought my broad beans had been eaten by mice, but thankfully they are popping up in the polytunnel now. So lots of good things to come, hopefully. I've got seedlings in the house as well that are just starting to get their true leaves, so I'll be potting those on soon. But again, still trying to enjoy the slowness of this time of year, otherwise you can get carried away and things can be a bit too quick. But that's more or less everything from the garden at the moment. I think in a week or two we'll be looking at crocuses everywhere, and I'm really excited to show you those. It's just a few little glimpses of what we've got to look forward to. So thanks for watching and stay tuned. Be sure to give us a subscribe if you want to see more from our cottage garden.